Dhamma friends, welcome everyone for the question and answer session. As yesterday there are some leftovers, some questions, some papers, so I invite Sunil to present accordingly.
Yeah, I have the first one, which is really a statement about Nissarana. Would you like me to read it?
As you like.
Dear Bhante, I am writing this in order to correct the wrong picture created about the Nissarana Meditation Center, if one hasn't been there yet. It's talking about the improvements they have done recently. Last November, I joined the international retreat and had a wonderful experience. The excellent Dhamma service and guidance, supported by comforts of board and lodging, beds, bed linen, washrooms and showers, laundry, and excellent breakfast and lunch with variety of tasty nutritious dishes, tea, coffee and juices throughout the day in a clean and insect-free building, all for free. Towards the end, one feels like making a generous donation towards the improvement and maintaining the facility without being asked. Apply online and get an opportunity to enjoy the Sri Lankans' generosity in the practice of Dhamma. Thero online. It's just a statement. I completely agree with that one because I also visited it, and there are tremendous improvements. When you have a large facility, you always have problems, issues, but you know they have tremendous amount of improvement recent times.
I also agree with you.
Sorry? Okay, first question. Dear Bhante, during sitting meditation, after about 10 minutes, I cannot differentiate my in-breath and out-breath, and I feel like I am entering into a deep black hole. So now I keep observing the darkness, and sometimes I feel like I am going to deeper and deeper in the dark. Number two, also sometimes I feel my breath again, but I do not try to focus on breath. Just watch, observe the dark. Number three, sometimes I see some bright clouds come and go in the dark, but I keep watching. Kindly comment on this and how can I progress my practice?
This is somewhat related to the talk that I am supposed to give today. When and where someone is facilitated or given condition, your mind naturally go into the deep layers in the experience as well as some depth and the profundity of theory, and therefore mind, when and where it becomes familiar, secured and seasoned, mastered, then start penetrating inside. So daily the trip is starting from the beginner's mind, from the very superficial level. When it goes deep in, and a kind of shifting of the paradigm going to take place. In theoretical sense, it says, as far as you are on the superficial level, as far as you are on the starting point, each and everything representing its own natural characteristic, individual characteristic, intrinsic characteristics. So they are very competitive, they are very they are recognizing each and every with their own identity, and that is how the meditator starts. So one of them will be your primary object, and with respect to that primary object, when you observe whatever the thing arising, ultimately the difference between the primary object and the other parts, and in the case of in-breath and out-breath, the two lobes of within the primary object, everyone going to become common characteristics. Instead of the individual characteristic, they dissolve into common characteristics. That means their individual identity slowly releasing. In-breath cannot differentiate from the out-breath. After a while, the breathing experience and that also reduced to amount to be just elementary characteristics, stiffness, tension, movements, heat, cold, all the kind of thing, and the whole body, everywhere also you are bound to feel stiffness, tension, movements like all the elementary characteristics. So not only the in-breath and out-breath merge each other, but all the experience, in the sense feelings, appear to be indiscriminate. They dissolve into this same. And when it is happening, your egoistic center, egocentric thinking become thoroughly challenged, because everything appear equal. So there is no lion share, there is no betterment. Everything is equal, so therefore there is nothing to grab hold. There is nothing to claim this is me and this is not me, because it is just equal. And when it is happening, mind projects many concepts, symbols, dreams, hallucinations, imaginations, in order to cater for, in order to get its anchorage. So therefore a lot of concepts arising. So mind become upset regarding which is concept and which is reality. Like everything appear like half dream or half sleep. So that is a point where the yogi, the practitioner, must be well aware about that, be prepared for that. Of course, by being prepared, being preparedness come with your own experience and own mistakes. And if he or she is not distracting, disturbing or putting turmoil, then this cutting through keep on going, whereby you say bye-bye to the senses. No more impingement from the senses, but still you are exactly being with I am living, I am not dead, I am not sleeping. That mindfulness is there, that concentration is there, but it is not dependent on any materiality, sounds, vision or visual objects, smells, tastes or tactile sensation. And when that is happening, according to the Western psychology, we can say mind is going from the consciousness mind to the subconscious. Mind goes deep into from the tip of the iceberg to the submarine area. Sometimes again come back and again going back, again come back and going down. So whenever it come back to the surface, again you feel mild level of breathings, sounds, smells, feelings, thoughts. Whenever it again go back, again you feel everything is just nothing but energy, just waves, just kind of energy waves. So when and where you go to the energy waves, you lose your identity. No more egoistic, no more conceited, no more grabbing your own lion's share, but that is kind of a novelty to the mind, that is kind of a phobia, kind of a neophobia to the mind. So often it come back to the sea, it's conventional world, the in-breath versus out-breath, sounds, pain, thoughts, and again due to the surrounding condition, due to your proper application, again mind got deep into. So this area is a very good sign to indicate the advancement of your meditation and whether you are ready with your view. If you are with the correct view and the broader view, you are not going to discriminate that convention is the best over this just energy or the absolute is the best. You just allow it to happen according to its natural accord, and that is how you have to develop the broadness of the mind or radical reflection of the mind, letting the basic nature, the absolute nature manifest by itself, not giving a preference to the conventional truth. So the mind oscillating now, from the convention to the absolute, but the absolute is novelty, fear, uncertainty, boredom, and monotonous. But when I come to the convention, again you feel, yes, I am here, and all the characteristics. So this area need a huge amount of familiarization, huge amount of seasoning, mastering, and there your conventional faith, the superficial faith, still have a role. And your energy, your diligent effort, just not to suppress one part of this experience, just let it happen in natural accord. And the mindfulness, to say mindfulness with object and without object, mindfulness with sign and without sign, exactly the mindfulness is the same. That also kind of a maturity. And a kind of a concentration based on a sign, and the signless concentration based on an object, and the objectless concentration, and the wisdom to see, unless otherwise you have a proper path, unless otherwise you have a methodology, unless otherwise you have a systematic approach, you never open this subconscious. So therefore your knowledge, whatever may be pertaining to this convention, is less than 50%. So therefore this is the only time you are opening the door to the so-called balanced wisdom convention as the absolute. So therefore everything, the faith, the energy, the mindfulness, the concentration, the wisdom, getting kind of a reinforcement. The advice at that field is, don't try to be smart and accelerate the program. Just let it happen in the normal accord. Only thing is, don't disturb it. You disturb out of fear. You disturb due to your monotonous nature. You consider it as a monotone, or a fearful, uncertain, new areas. So that is the place where your personality and the radical reflection play a good role. So therefore this is the only thing I would say we can provide in a retreat, not more than that. And if that is achieved, that's all from the retreat we can do. And then onward, the way of life, livelihood that you are going to live, you are go up to your individual desire. If you wish to explore into this unknown area further and further, you will be more spiritual person, you will be more meditative kind of person, you may be more toward the absolutes, but how much you can decide upon that, or how much you are wise enough towards that, they are variables. We can't decide upon that. But just showing, so far we were roaming around only the known part, materialistic part, rational part, or on the tip of the iceberg. Now there's a very justifiable method, spiritual method, superhuman method to go into the subconscious, not with drugs, not with any kind of other hallucination, not with mystics, not with the bliss of another person, only with your own practice. Of course with the teaching of the Buddha, but that is nothing magical. It's just a theory. And that is the way you open the door to this path, and then onward you have to have a huge revolution, huge reconsideration about all the likings and dislikings, all your personality traits, all your hobbies, all your habits, addictions, everything you can do it. But single advice is, don't try to be smart and accelerate it. Because this conditioning happens through millions of years. You can't redo it by just by your interest or just due to your enthusiasm. You have to let it happen unhindered in the natural accord, and for that be patient. Make sure that ever you are progressing, but no much of a rush, and just to keep on. So sometimes everything will be vanished off, and again you will be going back to the full emotional, full sentimental, full beginner's level. But even then, that does not indicate your potential is blocked. Potential is there. If the other variables are distracted, not in accord with, definitely you will be again back at a completely frustrated person, completely tense person, tortured person. But once you go on, you know your potential is there. Whenever the other variables are aligned, you can go. So therefore, if someone is going to experience this kind of thing, he will not be self-cursing kind of a person. Of course, circumstances will be very bad, go back to the very distracting situation, but no, being a human, I have this window opening. When the variables are aligned, you can go. So therefore, your kind of a self-appreciation, being a human, and even others are not explored into that, they also have the same potential. So therefore, you respect each and every human, knowing that they are the only potential people, whether they are practicing or not, different separate issue. So likewise, your value system, value judgment to the nature, to the people changes. So to summarizing what I would like to mention is the maximum we can expect out of a retreat, specifically in the residential retreat, but that is just indicating your potential, and then you have to make your personal decision to maintain it unhindered.
How do you maintain it unhindered?
So the next question, how to maintain it unhindered? Samma vacha, samma kammanta, samma ajiva. You have to maintain your words. That is the most distracting, harmful thing. Don't talk unwanted. Don't talk short to the point. Short and sweet, finished. And the kammanta, the day-to-day activities, it must be practically oriented. It must be only for the utility values, not for the sake of luxuries, not for the sake of one-upmanship, not for the sake of material, the consumerization. Do be busy with yourself in order to earn something to eat, in order to earn something to wear, in order to have some place to live and some medicine. That's it, not more than that. And then you have enough time. And the third one is that livelihood must be a justifiable one, not exploiting others, not distracting the nature, not killing animals, not robbing other properties, not for the sexual or sensual misconduct, and that means the livelihood. When these things are reconsidered, you can't adjust overnight. You have to do little by little adjustments. Overnight you can't adjust the vocal or articulation. Slowly you have to calm down. And activities-wise, at the beginning you are a very busy boy maybe, but slowly you cut off unwanted things. And livelihood-wise, we are not from the princely families, so we have to do something, and you have to understand, earn your livelihood with a justifiable method, and put yourself into the other man's shoes and see, are you exploiting others? If it is so, sorry, then you are in a repercussion. So these things you can consider only after you experience this kind of thing, not otherwise. Even if otherwise you are doing, they are not going to make a permanent change.
But to achieve this state of affairs, at the very beginning itself, you need these qualities.
That is what the conventional Buddhist thinks. Mm-hmm. But the Buddha is not a Buddhist. He gives a free chance for any person. You can either start with the mindfulness and then go for morality, or you can start with morality, then go to the mindfulness, if I have to put in a different mode. And we conventional Buddhist thinks that everyone must be morally sound, and therefore we look at a person through the morality, not through the humanity. That is called the moralists. So they people discriminate people, you are moral, you are not, I am moral, you are not in my group, like problems. For them, mindfulness is not balanced enough. It says mindfulness is too slack. It is mindfulness must have a favoritism to the Vinaya people or moral people as they think. But the mindfulness don't care whether you have Vinaya or not. But once mindfulness given the clear picture, if you are not adjusting yourself, you are utter fool. If the mindfulness is going to tell you this is the picture, but even then if you are not ready to change yourself, if you are not ready to reconsider your likings and disliking, then Dhamma can't help. That is the point where you have to have your will, your rational thinking, role models and your past experience. So then onward evolution become very fast, which has stopped 40 million years ago, now happening within 7 days. Quickly that can happen, but only advice is don't try to accelerate it. Don't try to be smart, let it happen.
Dear Bhante, in one of your books you say we must train ourselves daily to arrive at this state of consciousness that is unrelated to the senses, anindriya baddha vijnana. Please elaborate on this.
So when I am putting that terms, the technical term, I got a lot of criticisms from the traditional people telling that I am adding unwanted terminology into the canon. So let me explain what is the Indriya Patipaddha Vijnana. Indriya Patipaddha Vijnana means when our mind is, or consciousness is related with the eye, ear, nose, tongue, the body and the mind itself. For such a consciousness to arise, there's an external stimuli is a must. The eye consciousness to arise, the visual objects must be there and come and impinge in your eye, then only the eye consciousness can happen. The ear consciousness needs sound waves. The nose needs olfactory sensation. The tongue consciousness needs tastes. The body tactile sensations. The mind concepts. So this is the way we keep our mind jumping from one to the other just like a mad monkey. But in the meditation, you close eyes, go to a silent place, not entertain smelling, not tasting, and the bodily volitional movements you stop it and just let happen metabolic activities happening through involuntary muscles and you focus the attention. That is what we call anapanasati or in-breath and out-breath, maybe rising and falling. So imagine when and where you familiarize the anapana, in-breath and out-breath, and ultimately just like the early statement, if there is no much of a discrimination you can see between the in-breath and out-breath due to your season in close observation of the breath, and ultimately breath become unperceivable, then you come to a state, you are conscious, you are not dead, you are not sleepy, you are not unconscious, but it is not depending on ears, eye, nose, tongue and the body. Not only that, it is not dependent upon any sound or any visual object, sound, smell, smell, taste or tactile. Then you can see kind of a consciousness suspending, not pivotal upon any kind of external stimuli or pivotal upon any sense organ. That is the point where the mind is at the end of the diving board. Now you are about to jump into the water, the end of the springboard. It has gone to the end of the springboard and you can put a somersault and put into the swimming pool. Like when it comes to the end, you can understand now the consciousness is there, not dead, not sleepy, not unconscious, but there is no specific object, there is no specific sensory faculty. It is immediately associating. So when that happens, your ego is at utter danger. Your conceit is at utter danger. Your desire, going to get your lion's share and your chunk, is at danger. So therefore those people brought up with so much of desire to one's body and the life, they simply come back and entertain all the sensory objects and the senses. But the spiritually motivated person take this as a kind of a novelty, kind of a radical, kind of unconventional state. First and foremost familiarize it, considering it's a kind of a new combination. And once that familiarization happens only, the mind can go into the other sphere, kind of unmanifested form. So therefore this is it's a kind of a threshold, tip end of the diving board or doorway. So, but even then, even if it is happening in your meditation, to appreciate it, to facilitate it, to familiarize it, to master it, it's a completely impromptu, not assured. Each and every one of you all have gone to that place, and 1001 times you all have refused it and come back home, telling that home affairs are more familiar. Known devil is better than unknown. And something is better than nothing. And they are so established facts in the world society. But all meditation is to understand nothing. But when that you go to the junction, you say something is better than nothing, so better go back home. Back to the familiarity. That is the point. You decide and you become critical at your progress. So that is why the Buddha says, I can't help. I can just show the path, but if you are vehemently going backward and try to be with the familiar places and familiar things, that means you don't like this anindriya patibaddha state. You are always searching indriya patibaddha, that means non-visual objects, non-sounds, non-smells, non-taste, non-comfort, in spite of Nibbana. So no one can find fault with someone because that is their own babies. And it is for sure everyone experienced it. Basically all the serious meditators experience it, but hardly you can appreciate it, hardly you are bold enough to live up to that, or even leave aside the advancement. So that lesson not in the worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge is always asking you to come back to the non-orientation, non-benchmark, non-preference points. These are what we call dear and near ones, and close, our friends, and our properties what we earn, all what we love. So ultimately all your liabilities, all your credit will be liabilities in long run. That is what Vanaya put it that way. But whatever you earn, whatever you loved one, become a complete impediment for you to say bye-bye, for you to say tata. Even if you are away from the home, even if you are away from your dear and near ones, this short 10 days is not enough. It needs, because the conditioning is happening throughout so much of aeons of time. So therefore the Buddha only says, possibility is there, the potential is there. Not only that, he proved it and give a challenge. Imagine our rational mind, imagine our inferential knowledge always pulling us into the non-devil and the unknown. So therefore, meditation is very effective. It's very resultful. It is nothing to your credit. It's a highly potential thing. But the thing is appreciation. The proper understanding into the contextual meaning, that is completely an accidental thing, impromptu thing. So therefore, once you go on, once you realize it, that very realization is intrinsically yours. No one can rob it. Because when you're given the chance, going forward or backward, completely depending on that particular person. So it is ever a task, ever a challenge, ever a radical thing, ever a risk-loving thing. So therefore, only the radical people, only the risk-loving people can understand who the Buddha is, what is the Dhamma is, what is the Sangha is. By praying, by doing meritorious deeds, and by this and that and magics, from then on, from the threshold onward, they are nullified. They are no more use. Only the thing is your conscious decision to come over Chicago. Jump. Old frog, jump into the old pond, plop.
Dear Bhante, the other day you spoke about scientists always looking outward and using only the rational mind. I'm a scientist by profession, and so I must use my rational mind a lot, sometimes to a fault. Do you have any advice for balancing my need to use my rational mind with my desire for spiritual fulfillment?
I think I personally appreciate America in that sense, and in the Harvard University and a lot of other universities, now they have started through number of ways, neuroscientists, psychiatrists, mathematicians, and quantum physicists. They all came to know mind science. So far, mind and the science were completely two different sects. Science for the scientists and mind for the church. And therefore, they never explore into the mind, telling it is mystical. It's given to the church by René Descartes, if I am pronouncing properly. That's the first and foremost the psychiatrist, the person give the philosophy to the West. And now they found without the mind, scientist is just a robot. So then onward they started very recently something called mind science. There's one book published by Mind Science, Man and Life Institute, and now they are in the, I think, 30 odd number of annual conferences they have done. So if you are interested in, you can join them. There's a newsletter, and once a year they have a conference maintaining His Holiness Dalai Lama as the key person, and they are talking each other. So in that sense, America is leading. But there's yet another American I would like to mention in that sense. Bhikkhu Bodhi is a Jewish American. He says, be careful when you are comparing the Buddhism and the science. Nowadays, in a very bad fashion, people try to find clues and examples and some facts to prove Buddhism through science. It is nonsense. Buddhism need no any propelling or any props from anything. But Sri Lankan scientists, they say is in other way around. Professor Daniel Dhanvardhana, he said he learned some Buddhist discourses in the Harvard University in order to prove recent scientific discoveries. Only recent scientific discoveries can give interpretation only through Buddhism, not by the classical Newtonian science. That is disproved. So therefore now science take a refuge of Buddha and Dhamma in order to give interpretation, a balanced interpretation of their new discovery. So therefore, being a scientist is not a mistake, because science is ready to change the facet, and they are going forward specifically by coining the terms like mind science and So it is becoming open, and last February 3rd, Times Magazine, the whole magazine is allocated for mindfulness training and the mainstream mindfulness-based stress reduction program by John Kabat-Zinn. And in America, all the St. Franciscan schools decided to have 10 minutes each day for the students, teachers and rectors, everyone, to look at their mind. British Parliament decided to sit and reflect upon their mind, and this is mindfulness. There is an article, the Buddha recommend, go to a forest, go under a tree or a secluded place. Article says if you do not have such a place or yoga meditation place, go to the British Parliament. So they are teaching. Of course, they may not be scientists, but anyway, this is the way the marriage between the science and Buddhism is happening. So, Bhikkhu Bodhi very analytically mentioned about the Buddhism and the modern science, and it is with precaution only he is going to analyze, but his analysis is very good. And therefore, so far Sri Lanka or Burma and in Thailand, they have some little bit of contribution to this mind and life conferences. They have not come up because this situation is maybe not mature enough, or maybe not enough communication. Otherwise later, and therefore for the moment, His Holiness Dalai Lama is the one leading, and I think he is good competitive now. He is leading. But from Sri Lankan point of view, still it has not gone to Vipassana meditation. It has gone to meditation. And some part of the mindfulness. When it is going further to the Vipassana, of course it will happen in time to come, then scientists will be the second lot to understand what the Buddha mentioned. Of course, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he mentioned that next to the Buddhist, the other group will be the Catholics, because they are changing this thing and they are adopting according to the present situation. They are in a situation to understand. Personally, I thought after the Buddhist, Hindu will be the Brahmanism or Hinduism will be the next to understand. But due to this conference and others, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he says that the Catholic people, most of the scientists are Catholics, and they are in a position to understand little by little. So His Holiness Dalai Lama put a challenge. He told, I am a traditional monk, I am leading in my sect, so I am giving a challenge to you scientists. If you are going to disprove mine, I am going to disprove. And then scientists look at each other. He being such a traditional person, if he is going to disprove, we scientists are in such a dogma. We are the dogmatic part. How can we remove the cloak and get to that kind of a challenge? Usually the traditional people are the one think people are dogmatic, but the scientists are such a dogmatic lot. Very recently, Bhikkhu Ajahn Brahm, he talk about the scientists. He says, I was a scientist, I know the universities, they are the most dogmatic lot in the world. Scientists. I say, Sunil also known as a scientist. I also brought up after the MS level, but I know it, I hate it. But it is kind of an opening. If you put that into the mindfulness, if you open it, the way with the rationalization, deductive thinking is good. But you must be critical. Not only the outside, even inside. So therefore Buddhism is a good challenge. Open one, historical one, and you can put into yourself. And recently, I don't know, someone would have seen, there was a film known as Free the Mind. And the key person was the Richard Davidson from the Massachusetts, I think. He presented, and he says he is now 35 years meditating, and he says first he wanted to practice this frontal lobe of the brain and try to practice together with the meditation. He was almost disqualified, telling something wrong with his psychology. And still he keep on practicing. He was now leading person on that sense. And now he says, I am meditating daily. He started in Sri Lanka, but basic thing happened with the Indian Goenka system. Now they have become a role models, very down-to-earth kind of people, leading Americans, scientists. So therefore we are born into a particular time which our range is wide open now. We can decide. And don't think the other person is deciding, never. You are the one deciding. And if it is so, the range is becoming more and more. So therefore that the opportunity, the time is mature enough. And by putting yourself, you are adding fuel to this new experimenting, and it's a open invitation. And being a scientist, if you are not going to that side, you are double negative. If you're being a scientist, if you are going to the mindfulness, it is double positive. So therefore, it is a challenge, but it's a very decisive. Very decisive. And the Bhikkhu Bodhi is very nicely, he says, Buddhists are very happy to say that science is proving Buddhism and disproving the others kind of, he says it is increasing sectarianism. Don't use the scientific education to hit someone, the same hit will come and blow to Buddhism itself. So therefore, don't be so. Buddhism need no any props, any support, it can stand itself. But the Buddhist can understand what is happening rather than others, because we have no such a reaction. But anyway, just by not reaction is not enough. But we actively participate. And I met a lot of Sri Lankans. Some of them are working in American soil. And I wanted to have that kind of a network. But it is not gathering the momentum yet. Of course, there are no impediments. So what we can do is, the people we already taken these steps can start communicating with others, but not disturbing your own solitude. Otherwise, you may be just wasted. You will be exhausted. So, lucky enough, the internet and the electronic means, you can still maintain your privacy, and still you can have kind of thing. So it is happening, and presently I think the Mind and Life conference is going on. For the first time, one Sri Lankan doctor presenting a paper, mapping the tanha. He has put a craving into a map, and he sent me a proof, and I told, I am not up to that, but I am very happy that kind of a contribution is happening. So therefore, each and everyone, you can be a self-appointed agent for that kind of endeavor.
Dear Venerable Dhammajiva, can you elaborate on what it means to take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha?
That is, traditionally it says, to become Buddhist, you take refuge. The Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and that means you take the refuge. The Buddha, that means he is an enlightened being, as a human, born as a human, and due to his correct path, he got enlightened himself, became superhuman, and still talk in the human language and kind of thing. So therefore, he is not omnipotent, omnipresent, the power beyond the world, but it is merely a human being. And his communication not through the magics, not through healing, only through teaching. The Buddha says there are three methods to communicate: magic, healing and teaching. And he says he has all the three. He refused early to, telling is ignoble. He used only the teaching that is called Dhamma. It is rational. It is rational at the beginning, it is rational at the middle, it is rational at the end. That is the Sutta, the second quality that we discussed in the second day. Even for the beginner, the rationality behind what it is completely justifiable. Even if you are fully engaged meditator in the middle age or middle area, still you can see the rationality. Even after the enlightenment or advanced level, the same rationality is there in teaching. So therefore, the teaching the Buddha present, the main thing, even though he is talking about the superhuman qualities, he never undermined ethics. This is only the place, the Buddha's the significant feature is start with ethics. He later teach you how to go beyond ethics, but still don't undermine the ethical values, because that is what the world is running. And therefore, when you are practicing teaching, you must have a kind of a critical outlook towards the ethical value. Don't try to go against them, and don't think that ethics is going to lead to Nibbana. Ultimately, ethics itself becomes an impediment. So ethics is the beginning. And then you have to take the concentration training and then the wisdom. When you go to the wisdom, definitely my ethics are just at the Montessori level. But even then, majority are there, you leave it there. So therefore Buddha had the natural death, because he never undermined ethics. So therefore, if you wish to have a natural death, abide by the nature, abide by the social norms. Whatever your superiority, you have to abide by this thing. So in the Dhamma it is given, and the Sangha is the one, the Buddha says, those who have born just like human, like others, they are not fully enlightened by themselves, by following the teaching of the Buddha, they can liberate themselves. So therefore, if there is no Sangha, whatever the Buddha discovered is not human. So his greatness, because whatever the profundity of his understanding, even though it is difficult, it is possible to communicate to the other sentient beings. And by communication, other sentient beings become someone different. Not like a complete Buddha or with the complete omniscient knowledge, but enough for them to liberate. So therefore these three have some practical values, and it is not a commandment. If you wish to take this challenge, you take this refuge, and by taking itself, you feel kind of a security. But just mere taking is not enough, it is practical one, it's a pragmatic one. When and where you, it becomes a challenge ultimately you to realize it. More and more you practice, proportionate to the time value time you allocate, results are there. So therefore, the Buddha gave a kind of assurance, by mere taking these three refuge, you are free of the nether world. You will never go to the hell or kind of thing. If you maintain this, if you take the refuge of the triple them, it is not by mere reciting, but living up to that. So therefore, very, very dramatic way, very touchy way, the Buddha mentioned that after you eating your plate, your meal, in Sri Lanka we eat with your hands, we can say cutleries, you wash it. And you see some remnants in the water, some little particles. And if you throw it to the soil and telling, may it be a food for earthworms or tiny animals, itself is a merit. You have kind of a sympathy, even a thrown away piece you made available to other animals to eat, and you have not seen the animal, you have not seen their eating, but mere sympathetic idea. And then he says, if you can see a creature come and eat, you feel happiness, and it is 100% more than the unseen. And this being is a bigger one, 100% more. And if it's a human, 100% more. And if it's a human with morality, 100% more. And if a human with Sotapanna, 100%. Sakadagami, 100%. Anagami, Aryat, 100%. And if it is given to the Arya Sangha or Arahant, together with Buddha, 100%. And if you are going to take refuge, 100% merit than that. Take 3 refuges. Because that is the only place you commit yourself. Till that it is materialistic transaction. So you have to imagine how much your commitment, your presenting yourself to the refugee, going to give the organic and inorganic, in and out, ethical and others, so much of difference. So it is a highly potential start. But after you go there, so long journey still. So therefore just taking refuge itself is making such a big difference in our evolution.
Bhante, how do we know if our Anapanasati meditation is progressing? Is there a particular counting system or other benchmark so we can gauge this Thero?
There is no single, measurement or criterion. If you feel more and more familiar with the breath, or in other words we can say, if you can keep the breath in view with, face to face it, that's the first and foremost sign. Because that so far in our life, before we introduce mindfulness as such, we never considered the breath as something valuable. We would have lived years without giving any heed, without taking any notice. And with respect to that, now with the mindfulness meditation, if you take breath as the primary object, you try to keep object in view with, and you know how difficult it is. Though it is a very neutral object, it is not going to give any kind of a political, social gain. So therefore, even if you wish, you can't. But you are endeavoring, striving. One day, accidentally, you can say, okay, now I can keep the face-to-face. Now onward, how many cycles of breaths, how many seconds, how many minutes you can keep the breath in view with is a criteria. So not it is steadily developing, it's also its due ups and downs, but generally you can understand with the fair effort how many breaths you can keep in view with, and more you keep breath face to face with, there's another dimension going to start. So, but that is something, an endowment, it is something, a gift. Only your responsibility, only your commitment is to keep the breath as long as possible in view with, and then onward another momentum, another acceleration going to take place. Leave it aside for the moment, and first and foremost thing, as far as your duty boundedness is concerned, try to keep the breath as long as possible, not only in sitting, even in all the other day-to-day activities also. As far as you are with the face-to-face breath, that indicates you are here, now, I am. That's a good sign of mindfulness, awareness, diligence. Recently there was one American who lived 104 years, I think, and still he can work in the computers and is good in the mind. And he wanted to share his experience with the others, and therefore he writes. He says, I can remember it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and now I have come to that level. So if you like to listen to me, what I can say is, don't worry about the numbers related to your life. The age, blood pressure, heartbeat, all nonsense. Give it to the doctor, forget about it. They are not necessary. Be aware of your breath. And he is writing in such a way, and he says, the moment you start to turn into the breath, then you start to live. And the most peak point is end of the out-breath. The moment you can see the end of the out-breath, your liveliness, your vigilance, your diligence is so sharp. I thought it is like a teaching of the Buddha put into a nutshell, like end of the out-breath is nirodha, the cessation. And this thing is ending, whenever you are looking at the breath, just try to see the end of the out-breaths. In each and every breath, then you are so surveillant, so vigilant, so diligent, so mindful, so full of awareness. So therefore, the keeping the mind face to face with the breath is not human. We human have so much of escapism not to look at the breath. There are so much of hobbies and responsibilities and duties and excuses not to look at. But still the breath is never look away from you. It is always waiting till that foolish fellow comes back to me. That utter idiot is always trying to chase away. But the breath never gets angry with you. Because breath has no soul. It is not reactive. It is waiting. Once you finish, once your bad side is finished, you will turn into that, then it will ready to hug you. So that's a very good sign to say whether you are in a progress or not.
He was not a Buddhist. Was he a Buddhist?
No, he was not.
Yeah, we have exhausted the time. If you wish, we have 4 more questions.
Okay, try to give an accelerated program.
Dear Bhante, thank you very much for all you do for us. My meditation seems to be going well. Now I see images of Buddha and images of scary looking faces. These images get my attention from my focus. How do you deal with them?
So as far as you know they are images, that's it. If you are going to take them as reality, if you are going to take this as some omens, good or bad, then you are caught up. So when you write something on water, immediately it disappears. If you write something on a quicksand, immediately it disappears. They are just images. That is called mirage, that's called drama, that is called dream. So images are coming whenever there are no impingement from the outside. As far as the impingements are there, realistic or materialistic, we take priority. What is going to give the highest pleasure? The one we are selecting. And by the way of Patipada or method, we reduce them, and ultimately even the image on the breath reduces. And then my mind has nothing except the library shots, the memory. Then it is catharsis, vomiting, putting forward. These are the things embedded within oneself, and let them come. It is catharsis, it is healing, it is recovery. And when it is happening, just consider them as images. As far as you know images, it's a free teledrama. Nothing to pay any tax, you will just observe it. That is also arising to passing away. This is also arising to passing. Ultimately you will find not only the images, so-called reality also, more than images, it is rectifiable. Just paper. Out of that only we make stories. So therefore images, as far as you know they are images, it's a very good exercise for you, but don't rush, don't try to be smart. Just let them come and go, pass by, and be vigilant, be diligent. Don't let them to carry you away, taken you for a ride. Immediately once you taken you for a ride, next moment you lost to the next moment. So therefore vigilant to the next moment, let them come, and they are always trying to pull your attention. Never mind, that is the way. But as far as their images, as far as you know it, no harm.
Dear Bhante, what are the qualities someone has to possess in order for them to understand the value of noble silence? May you become fully enlightened.
One has to listen to one's own sounds. When someone is listening one's own sounds, he is contributing to the noble silence and is as endowed to get noble silence. Imagine from the morning to the evening, when we are moving physically, verbally, how much rattling noises we are contributing to the sounds. Whatever you do, listen to yourself. Whenever you are listening to yourself, you see kind of a self-awareness happens. And then definitely you will see, definitely you will gauge, I can do it the same thing with less noise. That is what you call contribution, not to contribute to the sound pollution. When and where someone is concerned about listening to one's own sounds, he or she will be like a shock absorber in a car. In a car, shock absorber is take all the shocks and never give a reflect, never give a reaction. So even the one wheel is going to get into a pit hole, the passengers won't feel it because shock absorber is taking. So likewise, anyone who is listening to one's own sounds is a shock absorber. And he or she also will be very self-concerned and kind of thing, will be a role model for others. And Venerable our Lupahamduru, Jnanaram used to it, slowly, mindfully, silently, SMS. Whenever you wish to be contribute to the noble silence, do the same thing in a slow manner. So it will be a kind of a hint for you to be aware. And make a determination, I will as well do the task with mindfulness. And third one is, I am listening to my own sounds. And immediately the mind calm down and go to the sound of silence. Very basic level. And even whatever the other people are doing, even thunderbolts, even anything, no problem, because I am not making any sounds. So that's a kind of a way, and it is not concerned with outside. But if one is concerned with outside, he or she do not know the meaning of noble silence. They try to make world enlightened, not oneself enlightened. Never. Even if you enlighten, the world is bloody world. That's it. It never changes. Only you change because you develop distance, get a distance from the sound, distance from the pain, distance from the thoughts. That does not indicate they are not there. Not to worry, that is to say, listen to your own sounds.
Dear Bhante, I heard in one of your Dhamma Desanas about lucid dreams. Could you kindly explain more about this and how we can relate this to our meditation practice?
The first and foremost, this is not any kind of a relation with meditation practice. If it is so, you will misunderstand. And lucid dream is the place where Rupa is going to give a Rupa Sanya, that your meditative object disappears or unperceivable, instead of image is going to happen. So you don't know whether it's an image or a reality, concept or reality. At a time it appears like a reality because it's a mind-made one. At a time, you know it is mind-made. So there and the half dreams, you find a relationship. Now this is a daydream, half dream may be a night dream, but both of them are mind-made. And Carl Jung, he was the one I think went more deep into that, but they tried to make a healing kind of thing that is, I have no much of ideas, but anyway, we are either in a daydream or in a night dream throughout our life. Only when and where we are mindful, no daydreaming, no night dreaming, that we can play living. Otherwise we are in a dream. So therefore you have to understand, it's a mad world. All what we are thinking, what we believe as reality is what we think to be reality. We have no ways, we have no yardstick to measure whether it's a reality or not. Because we believe it, that is why it becomes a reality. So therefore, till you understand properly, everything is just an image. So that is the function of Sanya Skandha, that is the perception. It's a 1/5 of our ego. It is, you can put it this way. You can understand, we are passing the Stone Age, after the passing the animal husbandry, agriculture, now we have come to the information technology age. Information technology means image. Whole world is now in the image. More and more you go to information technology, it is more and more chaotic. We think information technology is developing the communication, but it is completely messy. Everything is, then anything you can do in the computer. Any falsified thing you can create, any correct thing you can find fault with. So this is how the images are working. So therefore, these lucid dreams indicate how much we are either in daydream or night dreams. So therefore the Buddha, the term Buddha came Prabuddha. Prabuddha means awaken. Buddha came from the word Prabuddha. Prabuddha means awaken. He says all the others are either living in an egg or they are living in a dream. He is the first person waken up. So therefore, whatever the mistake you do is doing in a sleep, not big mistakes. Because you are in a dream. But you accuse yourself unexcusable way. But the Buddha says, due to ignorance, due to cause and effect conditioning, these things are happening, there is no doer as such. But the person is in sleep. So he has enormous compassion, because he knows everyone is talking in dream, walking in dream, and doing everything in a dream. So he says, before anything, just wake up. So therefore lucid dreaming is in between so-called misunderstood dreaming and awakened state, and in between. So in the meditation, when the rupa become rupa sanya, or materiality going to give way to the perception of materiality, then you have to go through it, both the ways, coming to the material and to the nothingness. In between you have images, so therefore don't hold into them. Don't try to make stories, don't try to mental proliferation, don't try to hold them telling it is good omen, bad omen. So much so you will get stagnated. So lucid dream indicates that how much our mind can make a world, or how much our mind can make this world as an image. So therefore everything is mind-made.
The last question is a long question about stocks and investments, so we will leave it for the first question.
Business, for the business world. So we have taken 1 hour and more than 50 minutes. But anyway, the active participation is there. Thank you very much for taking part. And this is the end of the question and answer session. Thank you very much for your participation.